When I started college, I thought I knew exactly who I was. Quiet, focused, invisible. The kind of guy people forgot was in the room. Then came Tyler, my new roommate, star of the basketball team. The kind of guy who walked into a room and made it his without trying. Loud, confident, effortlessly charming. The total opposite of me. I told myself we'd stay in our lanes. Just two guys sharing a dorm. But everything changed one night. The door creaked open, and he walked in shirtless after practice, sweat still glistening on his skin, his smile easy and careless. He caught me staring, and instead of looking away, he didn't. From that moment on, something started between us. Something I couldn't name, couldn't stop, and definitely couldn't hide. If you've ever fallen for someone you were never supposed to, stay until the end, because this story will remind you how the smallest moment can change everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories that will stay with you. I thought my first day of college would feel like freedom. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Terrified to jump, I had one suitcase, a backpack full of notebooks, and a nervous habit of checking my phone even though no one was texting me. My mom had hugged me so tight at the dorm entrance that I could still feel her perfume clinging to my jacket. Room 214, East Hall. That was me. When I reached the door, music was already thumping from inside. Something loud, rhythmic, confident. I took a deep breath, turned the handle, and stepped into a different world. He was there, standing shirtless in the middle of the room, tossing a basketball between his hands like it was nothing. Broad shoulders, tan skin, short, messy blonde hair that caught the light from the window. His jeans hung low on his hips, and his smile was pure trouble. "Hey," he said, flashing that kind of grin that makes you forget your own name. "You must be the new roommate." "Yeah," I said, my voice cracking just enough to betray me. Evan Carter." "Tyler," he replied, tossing the ball onto his bed. "Tyler Reed." He reached out his hand, strong, warm, and when I shook it, something strange happened. For a second too long, neither of us let go. The dorm looked like chaos had exploded inside it. One side, his side, was covered with posters of NBA players. Sneakers lined up like trophies, a half-open gym bag spilling protein bars. My side looked like an ad for anxiety. Neatly folded clothes, a small stack of books, a single-frame photo of my parents. "Hope you don't mind the mess," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I've been here a week already. Basketball preseason." "It's fine," I said, setting my bag on the bed. "I'm not much of a neat freak." He raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, you look like the quiet type." I forced a smile. "Guess that's not a bad thing." "Nah," he said, leaning against his dresser. "We'll balance each other out. I talk too much anyway." He wasn't wrong. Over the next hour, he kept up a stream of conversation while I unpacked. About the basketball team, the parties, the professors. He spoke with the kind of ease I'd never had. Every word, every laugh, every movement seemed effortless. And I hated how much I noticed. That night, after orientation, we both came back exhausted. Tyler kicked off his shoes and threw himself onto his bed with a groan. "Dude, I'm dying," he said, his voice muffled by the pillow. "Coach already has us running drills at 6 a.m. tomorrow." "Sounds intense," I said, pretending to scroll through my phone. "You'll get used to it." "I'm not on the team." He peeked up and smirked. "You sure? You've got the arms for it." I froze. My heart did this weird double beat that made my breath catch. He laughed softly. "Relax, man. It's a compliment." "Yeah, I just wasn't expecting that." "Get used to it," he said, his grin fading into something almost sincere. "I call things like I see them." He rolled over, reached for his earbuds, and turned away. I sat there, pretending to type something, but my fingers trembled too much to keep the act going. Over the next week, we found a rhythm. Tyler was chaos. I was calm. He blasted music at 7 a.m. I read, quietly by the window. He flirted with half the campus. I took notes in psychology class about human attraction and pretended I wasn't living inside my own experiment. But sometimes when the noise faded, when he'd catch me looking, something shifted, like that Friday night. He'd just come back from a party, jacket slung over one shoulder, hair damp from the rain. I was half asleep, lights dimmed, music playing softly from a speaker. He sat on his bed, leaned back, and sighed. You ever feel like everyone wants a piece of you, but no one actually sees you? The question hit me like a brick. Yeah, I said quietly. All the time. He turned his head, meeting my eyes across the dark room. The silence stretched, not awkward, just heavy. Then he smiled, small and sad. Thought so. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of running water. The shower was on. I checked the time, 8:12 a.m. Then the door opened. Tyler stepped out of the bathroom with a towel around his neck, droplets tracing down his chest, hair sticking up in every direction. He froze when he saw me sitting up in bed. Oh, sorry, man. Didn't think you were awake. My throat went dry. Yeah, I couldn't sleep. He nodded slowly, eyes on mine, then dropped the towel on his chair. He didn't move. Didn't rush to put a shirt on. Just stood there, studying me like he was the one caught off guard for once. You're really bad at pretending you don't look, he said quietly. I blinked. What? He smiled, not mocking, not cruel. Just curious. It's okay, he said. I've seen that look before. He turned away, grabbed his shirt, and pulled it over his head in one motion. But before leaving the room, he added without turning around. Next time, just ask. I sat there long after the door closed, pulse pounding in my ears. I didn't know if it was a joke, a test, or something else entirely. But for the first time since I got here, I couldn't pretend anymore. Because he was right. I had been looking. And the worst part wasn't that he noticed. It was that he didn't seem to mind. After that morning, everything shifted. Quietly, like furniture moved an inch at a time until the room no longer felt the same. Tyler never mentioned what he'd said. Not once. But I could feel it every time he walked by. Every time his arm brushed mine. Every time his laugh echoed in that small dorm room. Before, he was just my roommate. Now he was gravity. And I hated how much I started orbiting around him. A few days later, I came back from the library to find him sprawled across his bed, shirtless again, headphones in, drumming his fingers to a beat I couldn't hear. He looked up when I entered, pulling one earbud out. Hey, you disappeared, he said. I was studying. For what? Intro to psychology. He grinned. Figures. You look like the type who'd psychoanalyze everyone at parties instead of dancing. I don't go to parties. That, he said, pointing at me with a lazy smile, is exactly why you should. I set my books down. I'm fine watching from the sidelines. He tilted his head, studying me. You ever get tired of that? What? Being the observer. I didn't answer. And maybe that was my answer, because he laughed softly and said, Friday night, there's a team party at West Hall. You're coming. I'm not. No excuses. You live once, Carter. And just like that, it was an invitation. It was an order. Friday came faster than I wanted. I almost backed out twice, but the look on his face when I said I'd go, genuine surprise, almost proud, kept me from doing it. He threw me a hoodie before we left. You can't show up looking like you're going to a book club. It's a hoodie. It's my hoodie, he said, smirking. You're welcome. I pulled it on. It smelled like him. Soap, cedar, something clean and impossible to ignore. The party was chaos. Music shook the walls, lights pulsed, bodies moved everywhere. Tyler was immediately swallowed by the crowd, clapped on the back by half the basketball team. I stood near the kitchen, nursing a soda, invisible as always. Then, out of nowhere, he was beside me again. Having fun, he asked, voice raised over the music. Trying to. He smiled, leaning closer. You look like you're analyzing everyone again. I'm observing, I said. Right, he teased. Observing, not staring. I'm not. Relax, dude. I'm kidding. But his eyes didn't look like he was kidding. He reached past me to grab a drink from the counter, and his hand brushed my arm. The contact was small, almost nothing, but I felt it everywhere. He noticed. Of course he did. For a moment, the noise around us faded. It was just the sound of our breathing, his body close enough that I could feel the warmth coming off him. Then someone called his name. Tyler, shot time. And he stepped back, grinning like nothing had happened. You good? He asked. Yeah, I said, though it sounded like a lie. He nodded once. Don't leave yet. And then he disappeared into the crowd again. I left 10 minutes later. The noise, the heat, the confusion. It was too much. I walked back across campus, hoodie pulled tight, mind racing. By the time Tyler came in, hours later, I was sitting on my bed pretending to scroll through my phone. He stopped at the door. You bailed? Yeah, sorry. He shrugged, closing the door. Not your scene, huh? Guess not. He didn't press it, just kicked off his shoes and dropped onto his bed. After a moment, he said quietly, You look good tonight. I looked up. What? He turned his head, his voice softer. I said, You look good. In my hoodie. Something in the way he said it made my chest tighten. Tyler. He sat up suddenly, his tone changing. Relax, I'm just saying. Don't overthink it. He smiled, but his eyes gave him away. Neither of us slept that night. The next morning, things went back to normal, at least on the surface. Classes, practice, lunch, silence. But the air between us was charged. Every word had weight. Every glance lingered too long. That weekend, it rained. Hard. The kind of rain that made campus feel like an island. We stayed in, each of us pretending to focus on our own thing. He was on his bed, scrolling through his phone. I was at my desk, pretending to read. Then he said, You ever think about how weird it is? Two guys who barely knew each other a month ago, now sharing a room, a space, a life? I looked up. I guess. He rolled onto his side, watching me. You ever feel like maybe you were supposed to meet certain people? His tone wasn't teasing this time. I hesitated. Yeah, sometimes. He nodded, eyes still on me. Yeah, me too. The silence after that was different. Not awkward, not tense, just heavy. He got up, crossed the room, and stood by the window. Rain tapped against the glass. You ever wonder what people would think? He asked. About what? About two guys like us being close. The word hung in the air. I swallowed hard. People think a lot of things. He turned then, and for the first time, I saw something raw in his face. Fear, curiosity, want. He took one step closer. Then another, when he was just a few inches away. He said quietly, You're shaking. I'm not. I lied. He smiled faintly. Yeah, you are. His hand brushed my arm, just like before. But this time he didn't pull away. His fingers stayed there, tracing down slowly, deliberately. Then he whispered, Still observing? My voice barely came out. Trying to. He leaned in, close enough that I could feel his breath when he said, Then watch closely. And just like that, he walked past me, grabbed his jacket, and left the room. The door clicked shut. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like minutes. Whatever game we were playing, I knew something had changed. And I wasn't sure either of us knew the rules anymore. It had been 3 days since Tyler left me standing there after whispering, Watch closely. 3 days of pretending nothing happened, of going through classes and meals and late-night study sessions like the air between us wasn't thick enough to choke on. He was quieter now, not distant exactly, just different. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. Other times, he'd brush past me without saying a word. It was like we were both waiting for something to happen, too afraid to start it and too stubborn to stop it. That Friday night, it finally broke. The rain came again, heavy and relentless, turning the campus into a blur of silver and shadow. Most students had gone home for the weekend, so East Hall felt deserted. Tyler had stayed behind because of practice. I stayed because, well, I couldn't leave him alone. When I came back from the dining hall, the dorm was dark except for the glow of his desk lamp. He was sitting on his bed, still in his practice gear, staring at the floor. You okay? I asked. He looked up slowly, his voice rough. Coach benched me, said I'm not focused. I stepped inside, setting my tray down. You've been distracted lately. He huffed out a bitter laugh. Yeah, I wonder why. I froze. Tyler. He shook his head. Forget it. I didn't mean that. But the damage was done. The words hung there, sharp and heavy, like something we'd both been trying not to admit. I sat on my bed, unsure what to say. Outside, thunder rolled. The lights flickered. Then he said, softly, "You ever wish you could turn your brain off? Just stop thinking for 5 minutes. Every day." He leaned back against the wall, eyes half closed. "You're lucky. You seem calm all the time." "I'm not," I said before I could stop myself. "I just hide it better." His gaze found mine again. "Yeah, I think we both do." The silence stretched, and the storm outside seemed to mirror the one building in the room. Then the power went out. The entire dorm went black except for the faint glow of streetlights filtering through the rain. "Great," he muttered. "Perfect timing." "Hold on," I said, fumbling through my drawer for the small flashlight I kept. The beam cut through the dark, shaky, narrow, landing right on him. He was still sitting there, his skin slick with sweat from practice, his shirt clinging to him, every breath visible. "Guess you found me," he said with a small smile. I felt my pulse quicken. "You're hard to miss." He tilted his head. "That's supposed to be a compliment?" "Maybe." The corner of his mouth lifted. "Careful, Carter. You say things like that, I might start thinking you like me." His tone was teasing, but his eyes weren't. "I didn't think you cared what I thought," I said quietly. He stood then, crossing the room slowly. The beam of light trembled in my hand as he stopped right in front of me. "You don't think I notice?" he said. "The way you look at me." "It's okay," he said softly. "You don't have to explain." I swallowed hard. "And you? You look back." He smiled faintly. "Yeah, I guess I do." A crack of thunder shook the window. Neither of us moved. He reached out, fingers brushing my arm. My flashlight fell to the floor, spinning until it stopped, casting light across his face. Half shadow, half truth. "I don't know what I'm doing," he whispered. "Me neither." He stepped closer. Then maybe we stopped thinking for once. And before I could say anything else, he kissed me. It wasn't careful or planned. It was all tension breaking loose. Heat, confusion, relief. His hand slid to the back of my neck, and I felt everything I'd been trying to bury come rushing up at once. For a moment, the world went silent. No thunder, no rain, just him. When he finally pulled back, his voice shook. "Tell me I didn't just make everything worse." I could barely breathe. "You didn't." He closed his eyes, letting out a shaky laugh. "Then we're really screwed." We sat on the floor, the flashlight dimming between us. He told me about the pressure, the expectations, the fear of being seen, the need to always be that guy, the one who had it all figured out. "I don't even know who I am when I'm not pretending," he said. "You don't have to pretend with me," I said. He looked at me then, eyes wet from more than just the storm. "That's what scares me." When the power finally came back, we were still sitting there, side by side. Neither of us said much after that. Words felt too small for what had just happened. He stood first, rubbing his hands over his face. "We should probably act normal tomorrow." "Yeah," I said, even though I knew normal was gone. He nodded once. "Good night, Carter." "Good night." He turned off the light, and I lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling, heart racing. Because no matter how many times I told myself it was just one kiss, I knew better. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't confusion. It was the start of something neither of us was ready to face. And deep down, I knew, once you cross a line like that, you don't go back. By Monday morning, the world outside that dorm room had found its rhythm again. But inside me, nothing felt the same. Tyler and I went through the motions. Breakfast, class, practice. Same words, same smiles. But every glance carried weight. Every brush of skin was loaded with everything we weren't saying. And though we both sworn to act normal, it turns out pretending only works when no one's watching. It started at the gym. I'd gone there after class to wait for him. Something I told myself was casual, though the way my stomach twisted said otherwise. I sat in the bleachers, watching the team run drills. Tyler moved differently now, sharper, harder, like he was punishing himself for something no one else could see. When practice ended, he grabbed his towel and glanced toward the stands. Our eyes met for just a second before he looked away. That second was enough. Two of his teammates followed his gaze, and one of them, a tall guy with a buzz cut, smirked. "Yo, Carter," he called as I was leaving. "You scouting or something?" The way he said it made my skin crawl. Tyler stepped in before I could respond. "Shut it, Davis." But the damage was already done. By the next day, whispers had started. Little things. The way people looked when we sat together in the cafeteria. The half smiles when I passed in the hallway. The laughter that stopped when I walked into a room. And Tyler felt it too. He avoided me for a day. No texts, no jokes, no late-night talks. Just silence. The kind that screamed louder than words. That night, I found him on the roof of East Hall, sitting on a ledge with his hoodie pulled tight. "You shouldn't be up here," I said. He didn't turn. "You shouldn't either." I sat beside him, the city lights stretching out below us. "You heard the rumors," he said flatly. "Yeah." He exhaled hard. "They don't stop, you know, once they start. People get bored," I said, trying to sound calm. "Not in this place," he muttered. "Here, being different is entertainment." I didn't know what to say, so I said the only thing that felt true. "You don't owe anyone an explanation." He turned to me then, really looked at me. "Maybe not, but I owe one to myself." The wind picked up, cold and sharp. "You regret it," I said quietly. He shook his head. "No, that's the problem." "I don't." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It's like every time I see you, I remember that moment. And then I remember what comes after. The looks, the questions, the pressure. I'm supposed to be the guy with no weaknesses, remember? The one everyone looks up to. You're human, Tyler. That's not weakness." He laughed softly. "Tell that to my coach." Silence again. The kind that felt like falling. Then he said, "You ever wish you could just start over? Somewhere no one knows who you are." "Every day," I admitted. He smiled faintly. "Figures." When we went back to the dorm, it felt different, like a secret we'd already lost control of. He collapsed on his bed, staring at the ceiling. "You think they'll stop talking?" I sat on my bed, across from him. "Eventually." "And what if they don't?" "Then let them talk." He turned his head toward me, his voice low. "You really believe that?" "I have to." He sat up suddenly, running a hand through his hair. "You don't get it, man. I've worked my whole life for this. The scholarship, the scouts, the shot at something bigger. If they think." "They won't," I said, cutting him off. "They don't know anything." He stared at me, searching my face for certainty I didn't have. "Then why does it feel like everyone does?" Later that week, things got worse. Someone had drawn something on his locker, a crude, ugly message that made my stomach turn. He slammed the door so hard it echoed through the hallway. I tried to speak. "Tyler." "Don't," he snapped. "Just don't." He stormed past me, fists clenched, eyes blazing. I followed him out to the parking lot, rain pouring down again like the world was in on our misery. "Talk to me?" I shouted. He turned, water streaming down his face. "What do you want me to say, huh? That I'm fine? That it doesn't bother me? Because it does, Evan. It does." His voice cracked then, the anger breaking into something raw. "I didn't ask for this," he said, quieter now. "I didn't ask to feel like this about someone I can't have." My heart stopped. "Can't have?" He looked at me, pain flashing in his eyes. "You know what I mean." "No," I said. "I don't." He stepped closer, so close I could see the tremble in his jaw. "You think I can just walk into practice tomorrow and forget? You think I can be near you and act like none of this happened? I'm not asking you to forget." "Then what are you asking me to do?" "Be honest." He stared at me, breathing hard. I already was. We stood there in the rain, neither of us moving. The world around us was a blur. Thunder above, puddles below, hearts somewhere in between. Finally, he whispered, "I don't know how to do this." You don't have to, I said. Not alone. For a moment, he looked like he believed me. Then he turned away. Good night, Carter. And just like that, he was gone again, swallowed by the storm. That night, lying in the dark, I realized something I hadn't before. Love doesn't always arrive like a confession. Sometimes it comes as silence, as fear, as everything left unsaid. And sometimes, the person you want most is the one you're not allowed to stand next to in daylight. By the time the weekend game arrived, the tension around campus had become something you could feel in the air, like static before lightning. Rumors had spread faster than any truth could catch up to them. Tyler barely spoke to me that morning. He moved through the dorm like a storm himself, fast, sharp, dangerous to touch. He didn't look like the same guy who used to laugh about everything. He looked like someone carrying the weight of a secret he could no longer control. The gym was packed that night. Students, teachers, families, everyone came to see the team play. The lights were bright, the music loud, the court gleaming with anticipation. I sat in the stands, trying to blend in, pretending I was just another face in the crowd. But I couldn't look away from him. Tyler moved like he always did, quick, focused, but I could tell something was off. His rhythm was broken. His eyes weren't on the game. They were searching for something, or someone. And then they found me. For just a second, our eyes met across the noise and chaos. His expression wasn't anger or fear. It was desperation, a silent plea for something I didn't know how to give. Midway through the second half, it happened, a shove, a foul that wasn't just a foul. Davis, the same guy who'd smirked at me in the gym, hit Tyler hard, sending him crashing to the floor. The crowd gasped. The whistle blew. Tyler jumped to his feet, furious. You got something to say? Davis smirked. Nah, man. Just don't like sharing a court with liars. The gym went silent. Tyler froze. What did you just say? You heard me, Davis said, stepping closer. Everybody knows, man. Maybe you should stop pretending. A murmur rippled to the crowd. People whispering. Phones already out. Coach yelled something from the sidelines, but no one listened. And before I could process it, Tyler shoved him back. Hard. The referees rushed in. The crowd exploded. And me, I just sat there, frozen, watching his whole world fall apart in real time. They benched him immediately. The game went on without him, but it didn't matter. Everyone had seen enough. The whispers turned into words, the words into noise. By the time he came out of the locker room, most people had left. I waited near the exit, heart pounding. He looked at me once, eyes red, jaw tight. Don't, he said quietly. Not here. So I followed him, back to East Hall, back to the room where everything had started. He slammed the door shut behind him and threw his bag across the floor. Tyler, don't. He snapped again, his voice cracking this time. Don't say you're sorry. Don't say it's okay. Nothing about this is okay. I know, I said. He turned, breathing hard. You think I didn't see them looking at me out there? You think I didn't hear it? That's the guy, they said. That's the one. Tyler, you don't owe them anything. He laughed bitterly. That's easy for you to say. You can hide. That hit harder than I expected. I'm not hiding, I said. Aren't you? He shot back. We kissed. You remember that? You think I forgot? Of course I remember. Then say it. Say what? He stepped closer, voice breaking. Say what it was. Say it meant something. I swallowed hard. It did. He stared at me, waiting for more. It still does, I said softly. He exhaled, shoulders trembling. Then why does it feel like I lost everything? Because you're scared. Damn right I am, he shouted. I spent my whole life trying to fit into a box everyone else built for me. And the second I stepped out of it, they burned it down. I wanted to reach for him, but he took a step back. Don't, he said again, softer now. If you touch me, I'll fall apart. The room was silent, except for the rain outside. Finally, I said, You don't have to do this alone. He looked at me, eyes full of something between anger and ache. You don't get it, Evan. You don't know what it's like being me. You're right, I said. I don't. But I know what it's like to love someone and have to pretend I don't. That stopped him. He blinked. Once. Twice. You. His voice faltered. You love me? I took a breath. I don't know when it happened. Maybe the first night you told me I looked like I belonged here. Maybe the night the lights went out. But yeah, I do. He didn't move, didn't speak. Then, slowly, he sat on his bed, face buried in his hands. For the first time since I'd met him, Tyler Reed looked small, human, breakable. I sat beside him, not too close, just enough. After a while, he said, "You shouldn't have said that." Why not? Because it makes it real. It already was. He laughed, quiet and shaky. You're insane. Probably. He turned his head toward me, eyes glistening. You just ruined everything. Maybe, I said, but maybe it was already broken. He smiled weakly. You always know how to say the wrong thing in the right way. I smiled back. Guess we're both bad at pretending. We sat there for what felt like forever, the storm outside echoing the one inside us. Finally, he whispered, I don't know what happens next. Neither do I said, but we'll figure it out. He nodded, still staring at the floor. You realize we can't go back to how it was, right? I don't want to. He glanced at me then, a faint spark behind his tired eyes. Yeah, he murmured. Me neither. But as I left the room that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Something we couldn't stop. Because secrets don't stay buried forever. And love, once spoken, can't be taken back. The next morning, the sun rose like it didn't know what it had witnessed. The world outside kept turning. Students heading to class, buses passing by, birds singing on the wet windowsills. But inside room 214, everything felt suspended in time. Tyler sat at his desk, hunched over his phone. His duffel bag was already half-packed. The silence between us was heavy, the kind that said more than words ever could. You're leaving, I said, though it wasn't a question. He didn't look up. Coach called. Says I'm suspended until further notice. He wants me off campus until it blows over. Blows over? I repeated. They humiliated you in front of the entire school, and he thinks it'll just blow over? He shrugged, tired. That's how this works. Keep quiet, disappear, make them forget. I stepped closer. And what about me? He finally looked up. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw tense. You don't have to go down with me. Tyler. He stood, cutting me off. I mean it. You've got a future here. Classes. A clean slate. Don't throw it away because I couldn't keep mine. You didn't do anything wrong. He laughed under his breath. Bitter. Tell that to the school board. Or my dad. The mention of his father made the room colder. I'd never met the man, but I'd heard enough. A retired military officer, all discipline and pride. The kind of man who thought emotions were weaknesses and reputation meant everything. What did he say? I asked quietly. Tyler's voice cracked. He said, I told you not to embarrass the family. Then he hung up. I felt my throat tighten. I'm sorry. Don't be, he said. It's not your fault. But his eyes said something else entirely. That maybe it was at least a little. He zipped his bag shut and slung it over his shoulder. So that's it. I asked, You're just leaving? What else can I do? Stay, I said before I could stop myself. Fight this. Let me help. He looked at me like he wanted to believe it, like he wanted to reach for that tiny spark of hope. But then he sighed. You can't fix this, Evan. You can't fix me. Who said you need fixing? He gave me that crooked smile I'd fallen for, tired, half-broken, beautiful. You did. The first day you walked in here and looked at me like I was someone better than I am. I shook my head. I looked at you like someone who was real. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. That's what scared me most. He walked toward the door, but I caught his wrist. You're really going to disappear again? After everything? He hesitated, then said softly, I don't want to, but I have to. Why? Because if I stay, I'll want you. And I can't afford that anymore. My chest ached. You already have me. He looked at me then, really looked, like he wanted to memorize me before erasing me. That's exactly why I have to go. He left before noon. I stood by the window, watching him walk across the courtyard. No one stopped him. No one said goodbye. The world just kept moving, and I hated it for that. His hoodie still hung on the back of his chair, damp from last night's rain. I pressed it to my face, breathing in the scent of soap and sweat, and something that used to feel like safety. For a long time, I just stood there, not crying, not breathing, just existing. Days turned into weeks. The gossip eventually faded, replaced by new scandals and new faces. But every time I passed the gym or the cafeteria, I half expected to see him, sitting there, smirking, pretending nothing ever happened. He never came back. I heard whispers that he'd transferred to a college in another state. Some said he quit basketball altogether. Others said he was training again, trying to rebuild his career. No one knew the truth. But I did, because late one night, I got a text. No name, no explanation, just 4 words. You made it real. I stared at the screen until the message blurred. Then I smiled to the ache and whispered to the dark. Yeah, you did too. Months passed. Life continued its quiet rhythm. Sometimes I'd walk past the court at dusk and see players practicing under the fading light. I'd stand there for a moment, imagining him among them, hair damp, laughter echoing, eyes meeting mine across the noise. Other nights, when the dorm was silent and I couldn't sleep, I'd close my eyes and replay that night the lights went out, the warmth of his hand, the way his voice trembled when he said he didn't know what he was doing, the way it felt when I finally realized neither did I. And for a moment, it didn't hurt. For a moment, it felt like he was still here. Spring came, then summer. I packed my things at the end of the semester, folding his hoodie last. When I zipped up my suitcase, I realized I wasn't angry anymore, just grateful. Grateful for the chaos, for the confusion, for the love that didn't last but changed everything. Some people come into your life quietly, stay just long enough to shift your entire world, and then leave before you even realize how much they mattered. Tyler Reed was that person for me. And even though we never said goodbye, I like to believe that somewhere out there, he remembers too, the dorm room, the storm, the moment we stopped pretending. Because love doesn't always need to last forever to be real. Sometimes it just needs to happen once, the right way, with the right person, to leave a mark that never fades. Some stories don't end with happily ever afters. Some end with 2 people standing on opposite sides of a choice they never wanted to make. But if the story taught me anything, it's that love, even when it's fleeting, is never wasted. Maybe you've had a Tyler in your life, someone who changed how you see yourself, who showed you what it means to feel something real, even if it couldn't last. So, tell me, would you rather have one unforgettable love that ends or a lifetime of safety that never begins? Red heart if this story moved you. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story might just remind you that love, in all its forms, is always worth the risk.